I watched Emily toss another dress onto our bed with a frustrated sigh. The pile was growing higher by the minute, a mountain range of fabric spreading across our once neat bedroom. This wasn't like her, methodical Emily who normally decided what to wear days in advance. What about this one? She held up a blue cocktail dress I'd given her last Christmas. Looks great, I said, leaning against the doorframe. Like the last 5 you tried on. She frowned, studying her reflection in the full-length mirror. You're not even looking properly, Ethan. I was looking. I'd been looking for 2 years, ever since that company party when I first noticed something off about her behavior with Ryan. The lingering touches. The inside jokes. The way her laugh changed when he was around, higher, more musical. I dismissed it then as paranoia, but the memory resurfaced now, sharp and clear as crystal. The blue brings out your eyes, I added, trying harder. She tossed it onto the reject pile. It's too conservative. Everyone will be dressed to impress. The unspoken question hung between us. Who exactly was she trying to impress? Where's that necklace I asked you to pick up? Emily suddenly demanded, rifling through her jewelry box. The silver one with the sapphire pendant? My stomach dropped. The necklace. I'd completely forgotten. I'm sorry, I got caught up at work and... You forgot. Her voice went flat. I reminded you twice this week. I can go get it tomorrow. The party isn't until tonight. That's not the point, Ethan. She slammed the jewelry box shut. I wanted to wear it tonight. It would have completed my outfit. It's just a necklace, I said, immediately regretting my words. Just a necklace? Emily's eyes narrowed. Like our anniversary was just another day? Like my promotion dinner was just another meal? That's not fair. What's not fair is being married to someone who doesn't care anymore. Her voice cracked slightly. When did you stop trying, Ethan? When did romance become such a burden to you? Before I could answer, her phone buzzed on the dresser. She snatched it up, glancing at the screen. Her expression shifted subtly, a momentary softening I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I need to take this, she murmured, stepping out of the bedroom. I heard her voice from the hallway, too low to make out the words but with an unmistakable warmth that made my chest tighten. When she returned, something had changed. Her movements were more decisive as she pulled a dress I'd never seen before from the back of the closet. A deep, provocative red that clung to every curve. When did you get that? I asked. Last week. She slipped it on without meeting my eyes. Do you like it? The dress was stunning on her. Too stunning for a routine company party. It seems a bit much. It's a celebration, Ethan. We're supposed to dress up. She smoothed the fabric over her hips, studying her reflection with satisfaction. While she was in the bathroom applying makeup, I spotted the receipt on her dresser. The price made me wince, 3 times what Emily typically spent on clothing. Beneath it was a handwritten note I couldn't quite read from where I stood, but the handwriting wasn't hers. We drove to the hotel in strained silence. Emily checked her phone repeatedly, her fingers tapping restlessly against her clutched purse. The tension between us had been building for months, but tonight it felt different, heavier, like the air before a violent storm. As we pulled into the parking lot, Emily reapplied her lipstick in the visor mirror. You look beautiful, I said, making one last attempt to bridge the growing gap between us. She glanced at me, an unreadable expression crossing her face. For a moment I thought I saw guilt in her eyes, but it vanished so quickly I might have imagined it. Let's just get through tonight, she said, reaching for the door handle. And try to have a good time, okay? My boss will be watching. As she stepped out of the car, her phone buzzed again. This time, I caught a glimpse of the sender's name before she turned away. Ryan. The knot in my stomach tightened. My instincts had been screaming at me for months, but tonight they were deafening. Something was very wrong, and I had a sinking feeling that by the end of this party, nothing would ever be the same again. The moment we entered the hotel ballroom, Emily slipped away from me. She introduced me to a couple of her colleagues with practiced efficiency, then excused herself to say hello to the marketing team. I watched her red dress disappear into the crowd, leaving me alone with a glass of champagne and a growing sense of unease. I scanned the room, taking in the elegant decorations, the soft lighting, and the clusters of Emily's co-workers engaged in animated conversation. That's when I spotted Marcus, an old friend who worked in Emily's department. He was hovering by the appetizer table, looking uncomfortable in his slightly too tight suit. Marcus, I called, making my way over. Good to see you, man. He startled when he saw me, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Ethan. Didn't expect to see you here. My wife works here, remember? I kept my tone light, but something in his demeanor set off warning bells. Right. Of course. He glanced around nervously. How've you been? Fine. How was that trip to Miami last month? Emily mentioned the whole team went. Marcus froze, his champagne glass halfway to his lips. Miami? Oh, you mean Chicago? The conference. No, I'm pretty sure you said Miami. I hadn't, but his reaction told me everything I needed to know. I might have misspoken. Marcus's eyes darted across the room. It was definitely Chicago. The quarterly strategy meeting. He suddenly brightened. Oh, there's David from accounting. I promised him some figures. Excuse me. Before I could stop him, Marcus was gone, practically running toward a bewildered-looking man who definitely wasn't David from accounting. Chicago. Emily had told me she was in Chicago for 3 days. Not Miami. I made my way to the bar, ordered something stronger than champagne, and tried to make sense of what I'd just learned. As the CEO took the podium for his welcome speech, I spotted Emily standing near the front, her red dress impossible to miss. She was nodding attentively, but her posture was tense. Midway through the speech, her phone lit up on the table beside her. She snatched it with startling speed, but not before I caught a glimpse of the screen. The message preview was brief. Can't wait until we... Emily's eyes widened as she read the full text. Without a backward glance, she slipped out of the ballroom, leaving her half-empty champagne flute behind. I followed her, maintaining enough distance to remain unnoticed. She moved with purpose through the hotel lobby toward a corridor marked Staff Only. My heart hammered in my chest as I trailed her, past the kitchens and storage rooms, until she stopped at a door labeled Cloakroom. She glanced around once before entering. I waited 30 seconds, counted them in my head, then followed. The cloakroom was dimly lit, filled with racks of coats and jackets from the party guests. At first I thought it was empty. Then I heard voices from behind the farthest rack. You shouldn't have texted, Emily's voice, breathless and urgent. Ethan's right outside. So what? A male voice, confident and dismissive. Ryan. He doesn't suspect anything. You said he's completely clueless. That's not the point. We agreed to be careful. I'm tired of being careful. The sound of movement, fabric rustling. You look incredible in this dress. Did you wear it for me? You know I did. I stepped around the rack. The sight hit me like a physical blow. Emily pressed against the wall, Ryan's hands on her waist, their faces inches apart. Her lipstick was smudged. His tie was loosened. Well, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. This explains the Miami trip. Emily gasped, pushing Ryan away. Ethan, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed, the sound hollow and strange to my own ears. Save it, Emily. Ryan didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. He straightened his tie, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Ethan, right? Look man, these things happen. These things. My hands curled into fists. You mean fucking my wife? Those things? Ethan, please, Emily hissed, her eyes darting to the door. Not here. Where would you prefer? Our bedroom? Or maybe Ryan's place? I'm guessing you're familiar with both. The door opened behind me. A woman in a blue dress, Melissa from HR, I vaguely recalled, stood frozen in the doorway, her coat forgotten in her hand as she took in the scene. I'll come back later, she stammered, backing out quickly. Great, Emily whispered. Just great. I should go check on things, Ryan said, brushing past me with infuriating casualness. Take care of this, Em. I'll call you later. The nickname I'd used when we first started dating, before she told me she preferred Emily. I looked at my wife, this stranger in a red dress I'd never seen before, and felt the floor disappear beneath me. In the silence that followed Ryan's departure, I could almost hear the sound of my marriage shattering into 1,000 irreparable pieces. How long? I finally asked. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Whether from shame or simply being caught, I couldn't tell. Ethan? How long? She looked away. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of business trips and late meetings and girls' nights out. As we stood there in the cloakroom, surrounded by strangers' coats and the remnants of our marriage, I became acutely aware of the silence in the corridor. Then the murmurs started. Melissa had wasted no time spreading the news. When we eventually emerged, every eye in the lobby turned toward us. Some with curiosity, others with pity. The night had only just begun, but I already knew one thing with absolute certainty. Nothing would ever be the same again. I stumbled out of the hotel's front entrance, the cool night air hitting my face like a slap. My lungs couldn't seem to get enough oxygen. The world around me blurred and shifted. Faces, lights, sounds all merging into a disorienting kaleidoscope. Someone touched my shoulder. I flinched. "You look like you need this more than me." A young man in a hotel uniform, one of the bartenders from the party, held out a glass of water. His name tag read Miguel. "Thanks," I managed, my voice barely recognizable. "No problem." He hesitated. "Look, I shouldn't say anything, but I've seen your wife here before. With that same guy." I took a long drink, wishing it was something stronger. "How often?" "Every couple of weeks. Usually Thursdays." He glanced back at the hotel. "They always sit at the corner table in the lobby bar. The one partially hidden by the decorative screen. Thursdays. Emily's yoga nights." The pieces were falling into place, each one more painful than the last. "I'm sorry, man," Miguel said, genuine sympathy in his eyes. "If it helps, you're not the only one he's done this to." Before I could ask what he meant, a woman approached us. It took me a moment to recognize her. Amanda from Emily's marketing team. We'd met at the Christmas party last year. "Ethan? Can we talk?" Her voice was gentle, her expression a mix of pity and determination that made my stomach twist. Miguel excused himself with a sympathetic nod. Amanda led me to a bench away from the entrance. "I've been debating whether to tell you this," she began, twisting her hands in her lap. "But after what just happened in there, you deserve to know the truth." "What truth?" I asked, though part of me already knew I wouldn't like the answer. "About Ryan. About Emily." She took a deep breath. "It's been going on for almost a year, not just a few months." "A year. A year of lies right under my nose. Ryan has a reputation at the office. He targets married women exclusively. Like it's some kind of sport to him." Her voice hardened. "He's bragged about it at office happy hours, when he thinks no one important is listening." "And Emily?" The name felt foreign on my tongue now. Amanda hesitated. "She's different from his usual conquests. He seems genuinely into her. They've been planning a trip to Bali next month. Everyone in the office knows about it. Everyone except me." The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. "There's more." Amanda pulled out her phone, scrolled through her photos. This was from the corporate retreat in April. The image showed a group of employees around a bonfire. In the background, partially obscured by shadows, were Emily and Ryan. His arm was around her waist, her head on his shoulder. Intimate. Comfortable. Practiced. "April was 8 months ago," I said, my voice hollow. "Ryan did this to my best friend's marriage last year," Amanda continued. "Diana and Jake had been together for 12 years. Ryan pursued her relentlessly. Once he succeeded, he lost interest after a few months. By then, her marriage was beyond repair." As she spoke, my phone rang. Unknown number. "You should take that," Amanda said, standing up. "I've said what I needed to say. I'm sorry, Ethan. For what it's worth, I think what they're doing is despicable." I answered the call as she walked away. "Is this Ethan?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar. "Yes." "Who's this?" "My name is Sophia. I'm Ryan's ex-wife." Pause. "I heard about what happened tonight. News travels fast in certain circles." My grip tightened on the phone. "How did you get my number?" "Does it matter?" "We need to talk. There are things you should know about Ryan. About the kind of man who's been sleeping with your wife." Before I could respond, I heard Emily's voice behind me. "Ethan? Who are you talking to?" I turned to see her standing a few feet away, her makeup smeared despite obvious attempts to fix it, her red dress suddenly garish under the outdoor lighting. "No one," I said to Emily, then into the phone. "I'll call you back." I ended the call, tucking the phone into my pocket. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Was that Amanda? I saw you two out here. Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters." Her voice rose, drawing attention from a couple passing by. "She's had it out for me ever since I got the promotion she wanted." "Is that why she just told me your affair has been going on for a year? Because of a promotion?" Emily's face paled. "She's lying. It hasn't been." "Save it." I stood up, suddenly exhausted. "I don't care anymore." "That's not true." She stepped closer, her perfume, the expensive kind I'd given her for her birthday, filling my senses. "If you didn't care, you wouldn't be this upset. Don't twist this around. Don't make my pain about your ego." Her expression hardened. "I saw you with Amanda. How convenient that she found you alone, vulnerable. Did she offer a shoulder to cry on? Or something more?" The absurdity of her accusation struck me like a physical blow. Here she was, caught red-handed with her lover, trying to deflect by accusing me of the very thing she'd done. "I'm going home," I said, turning away. "We need to talk about this," she called after me. "Ethan, don't walk away from me." But I kept walking, her voice fading behind me. I had no destination in mind, just the overwhelming need to put distance between myself and the wreckage of what I'd thought was my life. As I reached the street, my phone buzzed with a text from the unknown number. "Sophia. When you're ready to hear the full truth, call me. It's worse than you think." I ended up at an all-night diner 10 blocks from the hotel, the kind of place with flickering fluorescent lights and vinyl booths worn thin from decades of use. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, took one look at me and brought coffee without asking. "Rough night?" she asked, sliding the mug across the table. "You could say that." My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since I left the hotel. Emily. Emily again. Marcus. A number I didn't recognize. Then, strangely, messages from women I'd never heard of. "You don't know me, but I saw what happened tonight. Ryan did the same to me last year." "Is this Ethan?" "I'm Catherine. Ryan destroyed my marriage too. We should talk." "Don't believe anything Emily tells you. They've been planning this for months." I was still staring at the messages when the bell above the diner door jingled. A woman walked in, tall, elegant, with dark hair cut in a sharp bob. She scanned the nearly empty restaurant before her eyes landed on me. "Ethan?" she asked, approaching my booth. "I'm Sophia." I gestured to the seat across from me. "How did you find me?" "Location sharing," she said simply, sliding into the booth. "Emily has her phone set to share her location with Ryan. I still have access to his accounts. When I saw you left the hotel, I figured you'd need somewhere to go. There aren't many places open at this hour." The waitress returned. Sophia ordered tea. "You still have access to Ryan's accounts?" I asked once the waitress had gone. "He's not exactly a technological genius. Never changes his passwords." She pulled out her phone, placed it on the table between us. "Ryan has a pattern. He doesn't just cheat, he strategically destroys marriages. It's like a game to him." "Why are you telling me this?" Her eyes, sharp, intelligent, studied me. "Because 4 years ago I was you. Blindsided. Humiliated. Trying to make sense of how the person I trusted most could betray me so completely." The waitress brought Sophia's tea. We waited until she was out of earshot. "Ryan records everything," Sophia said, her voice dropping lower. "Conversations. Text exchanges. Intimate moments. He keeps them like trophies." My blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" She slid her phone toward me. On the screen was a messaging app one didn't recognize. "These are conversations between Ryan and Emily going back 11 months. Her finger hovered over the screen. "Are you sure you want to see this?" I wasn't sure at all, but I nodded anyway. The messages were worse than I'd imagined. Emily's words about me, cruel, dismissive, mocking, cut deeper than the explicit exchanges about their encounters. She complained about our life together, called me boring, predictable. Laughed about how clueless I was. "There's more," Sophia said quietly. "Videos." I pushed the phone away. "I've seen enough. I'm sorry. I know how much this hurts. But you needed to know who you're dealing with. Both of them." The bell above the door jingled again. I looked up to see Emily storming toward our table, her face a mask of fury. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, looking between Sophia and me. "Emily," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Meet Sophia. Ryan's ex-wife." Emily's eyes widened momentarily before narrowing. "Are you stalking him?" "This is harassment." Sophia remained calm. "It's not harassment to warn someone about a predator." "Predator?" Emily laughed, the sound brittle and forced. "Ryan and I are in love. We have been for," she stopped abruptly. "For almost a year?" I finished for her. "Not 6 months like you claimed earlier?" The color drained from Emily's face. She glanced at Sophia's phone on the table. "What lies has she been telling you?" Emily asked, her voice taking on the wounded tone I'd heard her use in arguments, usually when she was hiding something. "This woman is clearly deranged. Probably followed Ryan for years after their divorce." "Actually," Sophia said, still unnervingly calm, "I've been happily remarried for 2 years. Ryan is the one who can't let go. He keeps files on all his conquests." "Files?" Emily's voice rose. "What files?" "Videos mostly," Sophia replied. "He has quite the collection of your intimate moments." Emily's face went from pale to crimson. "You're lying. Check his bedside drawer. Bottom left. There's a false bottom. That's where he kept them during our marriage. The diner had fallen silent, the few late-night patrons and staff openly watching our drama unfold. "I think you folks need to take this outside," the waitress said, approaching our table. "Or I'll be calling the police." "That won't be necessary," I said, standing up. "I was just leaving." "Ethan, wait." Emily grabbed my arm. "You can't believe her. She's obviously making this up to cause trouble. Like the Miami trip was made up? Like the year-long affair was made up?" My voice cracked. "You told me you were in Chicago, Emily. For a conference." "I was." Emily insisted, then faltered. "I mean, there was a change of plans at the last minute and—" "Stop." I pulled away from her. "Just stop lying. I can't take any more." The waitress, who had been watching our exchange with increasing concern, handed me a business card. "I'm also a part-time counselor," she said quietly. "When you're ready to talk, call me. First session's free." As I headed for the door, Emily called after me, "Where are you going? We need to figure this out." I turned back one last time, taking in the scene: my wife in her red dress, Ryan's ex-wife with her knowing eyes, the curious onlookers in this dingy diner at 2 a.m. "I don't know where I'm going," I answered honestly. "Somewhere far away from you." As I stepped into the night, my phone buzzed with another message. Not from Emily or Sophia, but from Amanda. "There's a support group. People who've been through what you're going through. We meet Tuesdays. Let me know if you want details." For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt a small flicker of something that might, eventually, become hope. I couldn't go home. Not to the house where Emily and I had built our life together, a life that now felt like an elaborate lie. I couldn't face our wedding photos on the wall, her clothes in our closet, the lingering scent of her perfume. I couldn't bear to lie in our bed, wondering if Ryan had been there too. But where could I go at 3 a.m? Calling friends seemed impossible. What would I even say? "Hey, sorry to wake you, but my wife's been cheating on me for a year, mind if I crash on your couch?" So I ended up at a 24-hour gym a few miles from our neighborhood. I hadn't brought workout clothes, but the board attendant barely glanced at me as I swiped my membership card. The place was nearly deserted, just one guy furiously attacking a punching bag in the corner. I headed straight for the treadmill, cranked it to the highest setting and ran. Ran until my lungs burned and sweat drenched my dress shirt. Ran until my legs threatened to buckle. Ran as if I could somehow outpace the pain that followed me like a shadow. When I finally collapsed onto a bench, gasping for breath, I noticed the punching bag guy watching me. "You're going to give yourself a heart attack," he said, tossing me a towel. I wiped my face, suddenly aware of how I must look: dress shoes, slacks, and a sweat-soaked button-down. "Thanks for your concern." He studied me for a moment. "Woman trouble?" I let out a bitter laugh. "How'd you guess?" "Nobody runs like that at 3 a.m. unless they're running from something." He extended a hand. "Jake." The name clicked into place. "Jake Donovan?" His eyebrows shot up. "Do I know you?" "Ethan Grant. We were in Professor Harrington's economics class together. Senior year." Recognition dawned on his face. "Holy shit, Ethan? It's been what, 8 years?" "Something like that." Jake sat beside me on the bench. "So, want to talk about it, or would you rather keep punishing that treadmill?" I hadn't planned to tell anyone, but suddenly the whole story came pouring out. Emily, Ryan, the red dress, the cloakroom, Sophia, the videos, all of it. Jake listened without interrupting, his expression growing grimmer with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I know exactly what you're going through. Amanda mentioned something about Ryan ruining a friend's marriage." Jake's laugh was hollow. "That would be me. My ex-wife Diana was Ryan's project, before Emily apparently. The coincidence was too much." "You're kidding." "Wish I was." He stood up, grabbed his gym bag. "Look, it's late. You need sleep, and this place isn't it. I've got a spare room. It's yours if you want it." My phone buzzed again, Emily for the 12th time. I silenced it without looking. "I don't want to impose." "You're not. Besides," he added with a grim smile, "us members of the Ryan Morgan Destroyed My Marriage Club should stick together." Morning came too soon, sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. For one blissful moment I forgot everything, then reality crashed back heavy as a stone. Jake was in the kitchen making coffee when I emerged. "Your phone's been going crazy," he said, nodding toward the counter where I'd left it charging. "Also, your neighbors have been calling. Apparently, Emily's making quite a scene at your house." I checked my phone. 27 missed calls, 15 texts, and 5 voicemails. The latest message was from Mrs. Patel next door. "Ethan, please come home. Your wife is screaming on the front lawn. We're worried." Jake handed me a coffee mug. "You need a lawyer." "I can't think about that yet." "You should. Ryan's playbook includes helping them drain joint accounts before you realize what's happening." Cold fear washed over me. I hadn't even thought about our finances. "I know a good attorney," Jake continued. "Handled my divorce. Specializes in cases involving infidelity." An hour later, we were sitting in a sleek downtown office facing Melissa Kaplan, a sharp-eyed woman who listened to my story with professional detachment. "The first 48 hours are critical," she said when I'd finished. "Ryan's victims, and that's what Emily is in a way, follow a predictable pattern. He instills a scorched earth mentality." "What's the phrase?" "If I can't have it, no one can." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that when cheaters like Emily get caught, they often become destructive. I call it scorpion syndrome. They'll sting themselves just to hurt you." She slid a document across the desk. "We need to secure your assets immediately." As Jake and I left the attorney's office, I felt a strange mixture of grief and relief. The life I'd known was over, but at least I had a path forward, however painful. "We should go to your house," Jake said. "Get your important documents, valuables, anything you can't replace." I dreaded facing Emily, but Jake was right. We drove to my neighborhood, my stomach tightening as we approached the house. The front yard looked like a war zone, clothes scattered across the lawn, a broken flower pot, our mailbox knocked sideways. "Brace yourself," Jake muttered as we parked. Inside was worse. Emily had clearly been on a rampage. Picture frames smashed, furniture overturned, walls marked where objects had been thrown against them. In our bedroom, what used to be our bedroom, dresser drawers hung open, their contents strewn across the floor. The mattress had been slashed, feathers from pillows floating in the air like macabre confetti. "Check your valuables," Jake advised. "Quick." I went straight to the closet, pushed aside the hanging clothes, and located the hidden wall panel that concealed our safe. My heart sank. The safe door hung open. Empty. The emergency cash, my grandmother's jewelry, the rare coins my father had left me, all gone. "She's been busy," Jake said from the doorway. I sank onto the edge of the ruined bed, surrounded by the wreckage of my marriage. "What now?" Jake checked his watch. "Now we call your lawyer back. And then," he added, eyeing a loose floorboard I'd never noticed before, "we see what other secrets this house is hiding." "What do you mean?" I asked, watching Jake kneel beside the bed and tap at the floorboards. "Diana had hiding places all over our house. Ryan teaches them to be paranoid." He pressed on one board, which gave slightly. "Here we go." Jake worked his fingers around the edge and lifted the board, revealing a small cavity beneath. Inside lay a leather-bound notebook I'd never seen before. "Jackpot," Jake murmured, handing it to me. The notebook was expensive, Italian leather with Emily's initials embossed in gold. My Christmas gift to her 2 years ago, supposedly lost during our move last spring. I hesitated before opening it. "You sure you want to see what's in there?" Jake asked. "No," I answered honestly. "But I need to know." The first few pages contained innocuous notes, grocery lists, work reminders. Then, starting about a year ago, the entries changed. "Met her for lunch again. He gets me in a way he never has. E forgot our anniversary, again. R sent flowers to my office just because. Comparison, E versus R, followed by a chart listing our qualities side by side. Ryan won in nearly every category. R says I deserve better than E, starting to believe him. As I flipped through the pages, the entries became more detailed, more damning. Emily had been documenting every step of her affair, from the first flirtations to their most intimate encounters, often with cruel comparisons to our marriage. Then I found something worse: financial records. Pages of account numbers, transfer details, and calculations. Emily had been systematically moving our joint savings into a private account over the past 3 months. $200,000, I said, my voice hollow. Our entire house down payment fund. Gone. Jake looked unsurprised. Ryan has his victims prepare exit strategies. I flipped to the last few pages and froze. There, in Emily's neat handwriting, were notes for divorce proceedings, consultations with attorneys, strategy points, arguments for claiming emotional neglect. The earliest draft was dated 3 months ago. She's been planning to leave me since January, I said, the realization like ice in my veins. While planning our summer vacation. While talking about starting a family. Jake put a hand on my shoulder. Compartmentalization. They convinced themselves they're the victims to justify what they're doing. We gathered what remained of my important documents: birth certificate, passport, the few financial records Emily hadn't destroyed or taken. Most of my clothes were ruined, slashed or covered in what smelled like wine. "We should go," Jake said, checking his phone. "My security system shows someone approaching." Too late. The front door slammed, followed by Emily's voice. "Ethan? Are you here?" Jake and I exchanged glances. He motioned toward the back door, but I shook my head. It was time to face this. I walked into the living room, notebook in hand. Emily stood amid the destruction she'd created, somehow looking like the wrong party despite everything. She'd changed from the red dress to jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, makeup removed, the Emily I'd fallen in love with, not the stranger from the party. For a heartbeat, seeing her like this made me doubt everything. Then I remembered the notebook in my hands. Her eyes fixed on it, widening in recognition. "Where did you get that?" "You hid it under our floorboards." "Not very original." "You had no right." "No right." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "You've been stealing our savings for months. Planning to divorce me while pretending everything was fine. What exactly don't I have a right to know?" Emily's expression hardened. "You're overreacting. Those are just notes, thoughts. Bank transfers aren't just thoughts, Emily. $200,000? Our future?" "I earn most of that money anyway," she shot back. "Your photography business barely breaks even." The verbal slap stung because it contained a kernel of truth. My career hadn't taken off as we'd hoped, while Emily's had flourished. So that justifies stealing? Lying? Cheating? "I was unhappy," she shouted. "For years. You were never there emotionally. Always distracted, always putting your work first. So you talked to me about it? Asked for counseling?" "No, you jumped into bed with the first predator who showed interest." Jake stepped into the room and Emily's face contorted with fresh anger. "Seriously? You brought him here? Do you two compare notes on your crazy ex-wives?" "Don't," Jake warned, his voice low. "Don't make this about us." The front door opened again. Ryan stood in the doorway, looking irritatingly confident in designer jeans and a casual blazer. "Everything okay in here, Em? You've been gone a while." His eyes found me, then Jake, and his expression shifted to something approaching amusement. "Well, this is interesting. What are you doing here?" I demanded. "Emily asked me to come. For support." He stepped inside as if he owned the place. "Looks like you've been redecorating." "Get out of my house." Ryan smirked. "Technically it's Emily's house too. And she invited me." "I looked up the mortgage records," Jake interjected. "The house is solely in Ethan's name. Emily isn't on the deed." I'd forgotten that detail. We'd bought the house just before our wedding, and Emily's credit had been damaged by student loans. We'd planned to add her name later but never got around to it. Ryan's smirk faltered. "Is that true?" Emily looked suddenly uncertain. "We were going to change it." "But you never did," I finished. "Which means both of you are trespassing. Leave now or I call the police." Ryan put his arm around Emily's shoulders. "Come on, Em. Let's go. We don't need this drama." As they turned to leave, Ryan couldn't resist one parting shot. "By the way, we've been together since last April. Not June like she told you. Just so you know how long she's been faking it with you." Emily gasped, either at the revelation or his cruelty in sharing it. I simply nodded, beyond fresh pain. "I know. It's all in the notebook." The following week passed in a blur of legal consultations and sleepless nights. Jake's spare room became my temporary sanctuary as I tried to piece together what remained of my life. The notebook had given us ammunition, evidence of Emily's financial deception that my lawyer called a gift from the legal gods. "We don't need to play dirty," Melissa Kaplan explained during our follow-up meeting. "Emily's already done that for us. We just need to be strategic." Jake and I sat at his kitchen table, mapping out a plan that walked the fine line between justice and revenge. We weren't looking to destroy Emily and Ryan. They seemed perfectly capable of destroying themselves, but I wasn't going to roll over either. "The company has strict policies about workplace relationships," Jake pointed out, scrolling through Emily's employee handbook he'd found online. "Especially between different levels of management." "I don't want to get her fired," I said, surprised to find I still had some protective instinct left despite everything. "This isn't about getting her fired. It's about establishing a pattern of ethical lapses." Jake spoke from experience, his voice tinged with the wisdom of someone who'd walked this path before. "When the judge sees she's been misusing company resources while conducting an affair, It creates a compelling narrative. The next morning I requested a meeting with David Chin, Emily's boss and the company's CFO. I'd met him several times at corporate events, always finding him straight-laced and proper. His assistant's eyes widened when I gave my name. Mr. Grant? Let me see if Mr. Chin is available. Word of the party confrontation had clearly spread. Moments later, I was ushered into David's office. Ethan, he greeted me, his discomfort evident. This is unexpected. I placed Emily's corporate credit card statements on his desk, copies I'd found in her notebook, meticulously annotated with personal expenses disguised as business costs. I'm not here to cause trouble, I began. But I thought you should know that company funds have been misappropriated. David picked up the statements, scanning the highlighted entries. Hotel rooms booked under the guise of client meetings, expensive dinners logged as team development, weekend getaways labeled regional conferences. I see, he said quietly. And these were? Rendezvous with Ryan Morgan. From marketing. David's expression darkened. Ryan has been on my radar for some time. But without evidence. There's more. I handed over screenshots from Emily's notebook, dates, times, locations of their encounters during work hours. I'm not looking to damage Emily's career. But I won't be financially ruined because of her choices. I understand. David set the papers down carefully. I'll need to involve HR, you realize. I nodded. Do what you need to do. That afternoon, an anonymous email containing all the evidence landed in the company's human resources department. By evening, Jake's network of contacts confirmed that both Emily and Ryan had been called in for emergency meetings. The next phase of the plan was more direct. Jake and I waited outside Ryan's office building the following day. As employees streamed out for lunch, Ryan emerged, stopping short when he saw us. What the hell do you want? He demanded, glancing around nervously. Just a conversation, I said calmly. I've got nothing to say to either of you. He tried to push past us. Jake stepped in his path. We've been comparing notes, Ryan. Me, Ethan, and about 8 other spouses you've targeted over the years. Interesting patterns emerged. Ryan's face flushed. You're harassing me. I'll call security. Go ahead, I said. I'm sure they'd love to see this. I held up my phone, displaying the financial records from Emily's notebook. Fraud doesn't look good on a resume. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can. Your ex-wife has been very helpful. Something snapped in Ryan. He lunged at me, swinging wildly. I stepped back, but not before his fist grazed my jaw. Security cameras whirred above us, capturing everything. Assault on camera, Jake commented as security guards approached. Not your smartest move. Later that day my phone rang, an unknown number. Ethan? This is Margaret Davis. Emily's mother. I nearly declined the call, but curiosity won out. Mrs. Davis. We owe you an apology, she said, her voice strained. What Emily did was inexcusable. With all due respect, that's between Emily and me. You don't understand. This isn't the first time. She hesitated. Emily has a pattern. In college. Her first job. Her previous relationship. We thought with you she'd finally changed. The revelation shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know it wasn't your fault. Emily has issues. One she refuses to address. Her father and I enabled her for too long. After we hung up, I sat on Jake's balcony, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in hues of orange and gold. My phone buzzed with notifications. The online support group Jake had helped create for those affected by Ryan's predatory behavior had gone viral, with dozens of new members sharing similar stories. Emily had tried to contact me multiple times, her messages evolving from angry to pleading. Our friends had taken sides, some believing her version of events, others standing firmly with me. The battle lines were drawn. But as I sat there, something unexpected happened. The burning need for revenge that had driven me for the past week began to fade. In its place grew something unfamiliar, a calm certainty that moving forward mattered more than looking back. When Sophia called to share new damaging information about Ryan, I surprised myself by declining. I appreciate everything you've done, I told her. But I'm done fighting. I just want to rebuild my life. You're a better person than I was, she replied. It took me years to let go of my anger. As night fell over the city, I made a decision. Revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but it wouldn't heal what was broken inside me. That journey would be longer, harder, and ultimately more important than any retribution I could exact. Tomorrow I would call off the final phase of our plan. Justice was necessary, but vengeance was a poison I could no longer afford to drink. The divorce proceedings began with an unexpected claim from Emily's lawyer: psychological abuse. According to her statement, I had been controlling, dismissive, and emotionally unavailable, creating an atmosphere of sustained psychological torment that drove her to seek comfort elsewhere. It's a standard tactic, Melissa assured me as we left the preliminary hearing. When there's clear evidence of financial misconduct, the other party often claims abuse to shift focus. But it's completely false, I protested, still reeling from the accusations. Of course it is. And we have the notebook to prove she fabricated this narrative recently. Melissa's confident stride never faltered as we walked to her car. What's more concerning is that some of your friends are supporting her claims. That had been the most painful surprise. Mark and Jenna, our closest couple friends for years, had submitted statements describing me as cold and controlling. They detailed dinner parties where I'd allegedly monitored Emily's drinking or discouraged her from speaking. Events I remembered completely differently. They're choosing sides, Jake explained later that evening. People hate messy situations. It's easier to pick a clean narrative: you were the bad guy, she was driven to cheat, than to accept that someone they care about made terrible choices. The divorce stretched on. Our house, once our pride and joy, sat on the market for months. Potential buyers would tour the property, then mysteriously withdraw their offers. The house has bad energy, one realtor explained apologetically. People can sense when something painful happened in a space. I started seeing Donna, the diner waitress who'd given me her card that first horrible night. Her counseling approach was refreshingly direct. You're not responsible for Emily's choices, she told me during our third session. But that doesn't mean there aren't lessons to learn here. One rainy afternoon, I returned to the house to collect the last of my belongings. The place was eerily quiet, emptied of furniture and memories. In the back of our shared home office closet, I found a box I'd forgotten: old letters and journals from our early days together. I sat cross-legged on the bare floor, reading through the pages of our beginning. Emily's early letters were full of passion and vulnerability. My journal entries revealed both adoration and, surprisingly, concerns that I'd suppressed and forgotten. Emily seems distant when I talk about my photography dreams, I'd written 6 years ago. Says it's impractical. Maybe she's right. Another entry from our first anniversary: fight about the dinner with her boss. Emily says I embarrassed her by talking too much about my exhibition. Felt like she was ashamed of me. Page after page revealed small fractures that had formed long before Ryan entered the picture. Moments where we'd failed to support each other, where communication broke down, where resentments took root. The revelation didn't excuse Emily's betrayal, but it offered context I hadn't been ready to see. As I was packing up the letters, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Claire, Emily's younger sister, standing awkwardly on the porch. I thought you might be here, she said. Emily mentioned you were clearing out the last of your things. Just finishing up. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Want to come in? Claire had always been the opposite of Emily: quieter, more thoughtful, less concerned with appearances. We'd gotten along well, though our contact had been limited to family gatherings. I'm not taking sides, she said as we stood in the empty living room. But I thought you should know something about our family. Over the next hour, Claire revealed a family history I'd never fully understood. Their father's multiple affairs. Their mother's decision to stay despite the betrayals. The implicit message that infidelity was painful but ultimately forgivable. Emily watched this pattern her whole life, Claire explained. Mom always took Dad back no matter what he did. I think Emily internalized the idea that this is just what happens in marriages. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. Claire sighed. But understanding patterns can help break them. That's why I've been in therapy for years. I didn't want to repeat what I saw growing up. After Claire left, I stood in what had once been our bedroom, confronting an uncomfortable truth. While Emily's betrayal was entirely her choice, our marriage had been vulnerable long before Ryan appeared. My emotional withdrawal, my focus on a struggling career, my reluctance to address growing problems, these weren't justifications for her affair, but they were realities I needed to acknowledge. That evening, I dug out my old camera, the professional one I gradually stopped using as my commercial photography business took over. I wandered the neighborhood at sunset, capturing moments I would have overlooked before. An elderly couple holding hands on a park bench, children playing soccer in golden light, a stray dog being fed by a homeless man. Something awakened in me during that simple act. A reconnection with the passion that had defined me before I became consumed by marital problems and financial stress. Over the next weeks, I developed the photographs and created a visual journal I called Anatomy of Betrayal. Not just images of broken things, though there were those, but also moments of unexpected beauty amid destruction. New growth pushing through concrete cracks. Sunset light transforming shattered glass into gold. When my former mentor offered me a teaching position at a photography school across the country, I surprised myself by immediately saying yes. A clean break, a new chapter, a chance to rebuild on more solid ground. As I packed up Jake's spare room, I discovered I no longer needed the notebook of Emily's betrayal. I left it with my lawyer, necessary for the final divorce proceedings, but took only my photographs into the future. 6 months into my new life in Portland, I barely recognized myself. The bitter, broken man who had stumbled out of that hotel cloakroom seemed like a stranger. Someone I'd met briefly, perhaps, or a character from a book I'd read long ago. My apartment overlooked the Willamette River, small but filled with light, perfect for a photographer. The walls displayed my favorite shots from the Anatomy of Betrayal series, now expanded into a collection that chronicled not just loss but renewal. Local galleries had expressed interest. A small exhibition was planned for the fall. Teaching photography to university students had awakened something I'd forgotten. The pure joy of creation, unmarred by commercial pressures or someone else's expectations. Watching my students discover their artistic voices reminded me of my own early passion. Tuesday evenings found me at a support group in a church basement downtown. Heartbreak and healing, the sign read, a gentle euphemism for what we all knew was the Betrayed Spouses Club. I joined reluctantly at first, urged by Jake during one of our weekly video calls. "You think you're fine," he'd warned, "until something triggers you and you realize you're not." He'd been right. The first meeting had broken me open in ways I hadn't expected. Hearing others tell stories so similar to mine, the shock, the humiliation, the self-doubt, had unleashed emotions I'd thought were safely processed and filed away. Now, 6 months in, I'd become something of a mentor to newcomers, those shell-shocked souls still reeling from fresh betrayals. "The pain doesn't disappear," I told a newly arrived man whose wife had left him for her gym trainer. "But it changes. Becomes less sharp, more manageable. You build a life around it until one day you realize it no longer defines you." After one such meeting, Amanda, who had moved to Portland for a job opportunity 3 months after me, pure coincidence, waited outside. "You're good with them," she said as we walked to a nearby coffee shop. "The newbies. You know exactly what to say. I just tell them what I needed to hear when it was me." I held the door for her, inhaling the rich scent of espresso and baked goods. Our friendship had evolved gradually, cautiously. Neither of us wanted to rush into anything, both carrying our respective scars. We met for coffee, museum visits, occasional hikes in the lush Oregon forests. Nothing romantic, just the comfort of someone who understood the specific hell we'd both walked through. During coffee, my phone lit up with a text from Marcus, one of the few friends who'd remained neutral during the divorce. The message was brief but jolting. "Thought you should know, Ryan and Emily broke up. He's with her boss now." I set the phone down, waiting for the surge of vindication, the cruel satisfaction of knowing Emily had received the same treatment she dished out to me. It didn't come. Instead, I felt a strange, unexpected pang of sympathy. Emily had been both perpetrator and victim, responsible for her choices, yet also manipulated by a skilled predator who had recognized and exploited her vulnerabilities. "Bad news?" Amanda asked, noting my expression. "Just echoes from the past." I slipped the phone away. Nothing important anymore. Later that week, Jake called with an update on his life. A promotion, a new apartment, tentative dates with a woman from his building. "How are you handling it all?" I asked, genuinely curious how he'd managed to move forward after his own betrayal. "One day at a time," he answered. "Some better than others." "You?" "The same. Therapy helps. The support group too." "And Amanda?" A hint of teasing in his voice. "We're friends." I hesitated. "For now, that's enough. Don't let fear make your decisions, man. Not every woman is Emily." That evening, I received an email that stopped me cold, from Emily herself. After months of silence following the finalized divorce, her name in my inbox felt like a ghost materializing. The subject line read simply, "I'm sorry." I nearly deleted it unread. What could she possibly say that would matter now? But curiosity won out. "Ethan," she began, "I've started therapy. Real therapy, not the kind where I go to prove I'm right. My counselor suggested writing to you as part of my healing process. She didn't say I should send it, but I think you deserve to hear this. What I did was unforgivable. Not just the affair, but the lies, the gaslighting, the financial betrayal. There's no excuse, though I've spent months creating elaborate ones in my mind. Ryan left me for Linda, my director. The irony isn't lost on me. For what it's worth, I now understand a fraction of the pain I caused you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for another chance. That ship has sailed as it should. I just want you to know that I recognize the damage I caused, to you and to myself. I'm working to understand why I sabotage the good things in my life, why I follow my father's destructive patterns despite swearing I never would. I hope you're finding peace. I hope your photography is thriving. Most of all, I hope you know that none of what happened was your fault. That's the one thing I need you to believe. Emily. I sat on my balcony for hours after reading her message, watching the city lights reflect on the river below. I didn't respond. Perhaps someday I would, when the words no longer stuck in my throat. But her acknowledgement had loosened something within me, a final knot of anger I hadn't realized I was still carrying. The next morning I called Amanda. Would you like to have dinner on Friday? I asked. Not as friends. As something else. Her pause felt eternal. I thought you'd never ask, she finally said. Ethan Grant, the TED event coordinator, called, poking her head into the green room. You're on in 5 minutes. I nodded, adjusting my tie in the mirror. 1 year since the night that had shattered my life, and here I was, about to give a talk titled, The Anatomy of Betrayal, A Pathway to Healing to a Sold-Out Audience. My book, expanded from the photography project into a memoir with accompanying images, had spent 12 weeks on the bestseller list. The raw honesty had resonated with readers in unexpected ways. I'd received thousands of messages from people who found courage in my journey, who saw their own pain reflected in my words and photographs. You ready? Claire asked, squeezing my hand. She had flown in specifically for the talk, our friendship having deepened over the past year despite her being Emily's sister. As ready as I'll ever be. I took a deep breath. Is she here? Claire nodded. Back row left side. She didn't want to distract you, but she wanted to support your moment. Emily and I had established a cautious peace in recent months. After her apology email, we'd exchanged occasional messages. Nothing personal, just practical matters about the final division of assets and later, brief updates on our lives. She was still in therapy, still working at the same company, though in a different department after Ryan and her former boss had left to start their own venture. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ethan Grant, came the announcement from the stage. The lights were blinding as I walked out, the applause washing over me like a wave. As my eyes adjusted, I could make out Amanda in the front row, her encouraging smile grounding me in the moment. 1.5 years ago, I began, I thought my life was over. My marriage had collapsed in the most public, humiliating way possible. My wife's betrayal had exposed fault lines I hadn't even known existed, not just in our relationship but in myself. The audience fell silent as I shared my story, interspersed with images projected on the screen behind me. Not just photographs from the original series but new ones showing the journey of recovery, the support group, Jake's spare room, my first day teaching, Amanda laughing on a hiking trail. Betrayal breaks us in ways we can't anticipate, I continued. It's not just the loss of a relationship but the loss of our narrative, the story we've been telling ourselves about who we are and what our lives mean. When that story shatters, we have two choices: try desperately to piece it back together or create a new one. As the talk concluded to enthusiastic applause, I scanned the back row and caught a glimpse of Emily. Our eyes met briefly, no anger, no blame, just quiet acknowledgement of how far we'd both come. At the reception afterward, Amanda slipped her arm through mine. After months of careful dating, our relationship had deepened into something I'd never expected to find again. Trust. Real, solid trust, built on a foundation of complete honesty. Moving in together is a big step, she'd said the previous week when I suggested she give up her apartment lease. Are you sure you're ready? I was. The fear that had once gripped me, that everyone would eventually betray me as Emily had gradually released its hold. Amanda wasn't Emily. And I wasn't the same man who had been blindsided by betrayal. Later that evening, an unexpected pair approached us, Emily's parents. I hadn't seen them since the divorce was finalized. Wonderful talk, Margaret Davis said, genuine warmth in her voice. Your book, it helped Emily more than you know. Helped us understand what we'd done to her by normalizing her father's behavior all those years. Robert Davis, Emily's father, looked older, humbled. I owe you an apology, son. For the example I set. For the pain that cascaded from my actions to yours. After they left, Amanda squeezed my hand. You okay? Better than okay, I realized, surprised by the lightness I felt. I think that was the final piece. That night, back in our hotel room, I added the last chapter to the paperback edition of my book. I wrote about forgiveness, not as a gift to those who hurt us, but as a release we grant ourselves. About how healing isn't a destination but a continuing journey. About the courage it takes to trust again after betrayal. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, I stood nervously in our apartment, a small velvet box in my pocket. Amanda was due home any minute, and the ring inside, a simple sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, represented a leap of faith I once thought impossible. I'd set up our rooftop garden with string lights, prepared her favorite meal, positioned my camera to capture the moment. As I heard her key in the lock, a familiar fear flickered. What if this too would end in pain? But as she walked through the door, her face lighting up at the sight of the candlelit table, I recognized the fear for what it was. Not a warning but a reminder of how precious and vulnerable love always is. How it requires courage. How it's always a choice. What's all this? She asked, setting down her bag. Instead of answering, I took her hand and led her to the roof, where the city lights spread before us like stars fallen to earth. As I knelt on one knee, I finally understood the most important lesson of my journey. The opposite of betrayal isn't blind trust. It's choosing to love anyway, eyes wide open, fully aware of the risks and stepping forward nonetheless. Amanda, I began, my voice steady despite the thundering of my heart, will you?